All right, guys, welcome back to the Failing Stars podcast. And on today, as episode, I honestly just really want to get into it. I'm very excited about this one. We have a pretty remarkable guest today. And tell me how you pronounce your name. I'm from Texas. I'm going to butcher it.
I pronounce it Håkan.
How can? Is that
Yeah, something
somewhat
like that.
close?
That's fine. I don't care.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
so you're the founder of Spur, correct?
that's correct.
Awesome. So first off, thank you. It's honestly an honor to have you on the show, and I've been doing some research and I've got I'm really excited to kind of dive into it. So um one like as a so I'm a small business owner, and I think it's so interesting. I'm really intrigued on how you take something from you starting it to um a globally recognized company that's been in a lot of different environments and been proven time and time again. And like when you started it, did you see it ending up where it is now?
And no, not at all. And like everybody else, I started in the garage,
Yep.
and I started it myself alone. Um, and I was employed, or actually, if we start from the beginning, I decided when I was 10 years old to become gunsmith. There was never really any choice. Guns was the only thing that counted for me. So, and I asked a friend when I was 13 years old, how should I become a gunsmith? And he said, you got to start as a toolmaker first. So go an education to become a toolmaker. So you learn how to use the steel and the metal. So I did. And from I was 16 and onwards, for 8 years, I worked as a toolmaker in the plastic mold industry and press tools. Um, and after that, I went to Austria, worked there for 6 months, and I didn't like it, so I went back home. And with this friend that I asked when I was 13, I started a company. That company didn't turn out very well, so we sold it a few years later, and I stayed and worked in that company. And from 2002, I made some development work for Aimpoint. So I made a twist mount for Aimpoint, I made the MPS mount for the heavy machine guns, and I made some other stuff for Aimpoint at the time. I did everything in metal. So they told me, we want this sight on this gun, and it should be able to do this and this. And I had to come up with the solution. So I had like free hands to do whatever I wanted, within those limitations, and that worked really well. Um, there was a unit that have heard that I made the stuff for Aimpoint, so they approached me uh, when I was still employed by the company that we sold it to, um, and they asked me, can you make a helmet mount for night vision, like the PVS
Okay.
14 and Mount 14 and so on. So I spent 4 years developing probably the most advanced head mount that have been made so far. It's extremely well made, but it never really became a good product for the company. And I had a discussion with my former boss in 2007, and we decided to split up, and I started Spur. And he told me, no, those products that you developed for our company, you can't keep them. Of course I can't. I do understand that's not the problem. Right now you have a Mark One. In 2 months I have a Mark Two. So the question is who you are going to sell the Mark One to. So we made an agreement so I could keep what I had developed for the company. First product was the head mount, and the production started in 2010. So between 2007 and 2010, I basically earned no money at all. It was really tough times. Um, and I heard the rumor probably in 2008, 2009 that the Swedish Army should should refurbish their Accuracy International 7.62s, the AWs.
Okay.
They did at the time have Hensoldt 10x42 scopes with 26mm main tubes. So I realized when they are going to change the scopes, likely will be a 34mm, so they have to change the scope mounts. And I had some ideas for a scope mount, and I started to play around with various ideas. And before we had machined any scope mounts at all, I took all the pictures I had and I put them out in my first post on Sniper Side, probably in 2009 or maybe 2008. And I said, this is my take on the optimized sniper or marksmanship scope mount. What do you guys think about this? Have I overworked it? Is there something I have missed? What should I think about? And that became a number of discussions. That I didn't have any other thoughts at the time, but that was actually a really, really good marketing thing, because when we later finally had a scope mount on the market, there was quite a lot of people from Sniper Side, not only in America, but also in the rest of the world, that felt, I'm a part of this. I was in these discussions. I want to have that scope mount. So the sales went on really good from that point.
Wow. Okay. Um, so you said something. So I listened to the podcast that you did with Eric Cortina, and there was a deal. You kind of touched on it, that you were talking about um, when you were trying to get, I think it was the night vision mounts going, that you went and talked to a bank and they said no.
Yeah.
What was the story on that?
We had our first order, and this was probably 2010. I might be wrong about the year, but we had a first order, and that was for about $300,000, and I didn't have any money at all. I was just completely empty. So went to the bank, showing the purchase order from the army. Look here, what we have, and I need to borrow, I don't know what I asked for, 200,000 or something like that to produce demands. And no, you can't borrow anything. Here is no security in this order. Yeah, but I said, this is an army procurement. Isn't that security? No, it's not the security. We want real security. That means part of your house. So both me and Ulf, that was came into the company a bit later, we had to put our house on security for the bank. So if things have went bad at that time, we wouldn't have any roof over our heads.
Yeah, well, it's so I think that's so interesting. So I'm early in my business career, and it, I haven't taken any money out of the business in
Yeah.
3 years, and and it just resonated with me a lot. I've been trying to grow it, and but it's just, I think it's very interesting to see how potentially really scary moments like that can
and
pay out.
after that, I actually went to a friend I had at the time. He's not alive anymore, but he was one of the richest men in Sweden. So I asked him, and I showed him the product and the potential. Is it possible to borrow money from you? No, I don't borrow out any money, but I would really like to purchase a part of your company. So let's say, for example, if he purchased, or any investor, any investor that goes in and, for example, pay, let's say 200,000 for 5% or 10% or whatever, that works fine, and you get a deal, and you deliver the stuff, but you lost 10% of your company.
Yeah.
Then 3 years later, you have another potential, and you need now $1 million. You can't get a hold of $1 million. And then he comes again. Yeah, no problem. I have $1 million here, but I want an additional 15%. Suddenly, you're the minority owner of your company.
Yeah.
And we said, no, thanks. We don't want to be that. We don't want to play this game.
I love that.
So we took all the risks ourselves, and we really didn't want any investors. Now, an important thing here, and I see that quite a few companies do that in the early stage. They buy that really fancy car that they always wanted. Yeah,
Yep.
that's the wrong time to buy that fancy car. Buy it 10 years
Yes.
later. Not in the, I mean, the first 5 years are just hell. So stick hard to your money.
Yes. That's solid advice. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's been the most stressful and the most fun time of my life.
Yeah.
I wouldn't trade it for anything, but sometimes my that's why I wear hats all the time. My hairline is just racing backwards.
Yeah.
So, okay, and so you did the contract for the scope mounts. Where did it go from there? Were you continue? Was it primarily bidding on military contracts with the scope mounts, or were there other things involved as y'all continued on?
Almost immediately, we got this small contract with the Swedish Army for the upgrade of their AWs. And that was a special scope mount for a 34 millimeter that went directly onto the AW. So that means the 11 millimeter dovetail. And we made from the beginning actually quite a number of different scope mounts, different models for different guns, and we came pretty early into various military contracts.
Okay.
But the civilian sales have been really important from day one.
Okay. Okay.
Without civilian sales, it's really difficult.
Okay. Okay. Well, and so that was one of the things that I noticed is I love how I mean it's obvious that Spur products have been used in different military aspects in a lot of different ways, but it the company also very much supports the civilian market, and you don't see a lot of companies do that. They'll either we're 100% doing military contracts, or our product's proprietary, civilians aren't allowed to own it, or they don't see the benefit in supporting the civilian side of shooting. So I think I just thought that was really neat.
And I don't see much choice really. I mean, there is times spinning between various military contracts, and you want to eat in the meantime. So either you have the civilian sales or you don't have anything. So I think you really need both.
I agree. I wish everybody shared that sentiment.
Yeah, and everything is good experience. And I really think the more times you produce the product, the better the product becomes.
Yeah.
And the first time you produce something, there is certainly some flaws. And
Yeah.
then you make another production run and you get a hold of a few flaws, and you refine the product all the time. It becomes better for the customer, and it becomes better for yourself. So the assembly of the product becomes easier. It can be really small things, but for example, if there is something a problem in a round hole and there should be a pen fitting there, if all those things are fixed, so the assembly goes really smooth, that's a hell of difference from you have to tweak everything to have it to work. So you really want as much production as you can.
Yeah. Okay. And so so I think most people that are listening to this have seen your scope mounts. I've got a handful of them. They're very, very good. They're a top tier product, I think. But how, and so this is where I kind of want to pick your brain as I'm not creative in the sense that being able to like come up with an idea and then create uh, a physical object or design something. I'm creative in some other ways. And so I kind of want, so when you developed that mount, was, I guess, what was the process of you coming up with the design that it is now? Was it something that you came up with that you thought worked, or was there a problem that you found a solution for, or how did that come about?
It really started with the special forces group that contacted me, and they wanted me to mill in doctor mounts into their existing scope mounts, and I could see
Okay.
the problems with that, and I did the work for them. So that was just like a gunsmithing work, but for a number of rifles, and I could see, well, here is a need. And at that time, now we're in 2009, there were no things such as laser rangefinders that you could mount on the scope mount or on the gun. That didn't exist.
Hmm.
But I realized that there is a number of things that you can mount on a scope mount. And there is a number of things you can mount on a gun. And there will probably sooner or later become laser rangefinders as well. And today, I mean, almost everybody today, they are offering some kind of stuff so you can mount something on the scope mount. Either it's integral Picatinny rail or it's an interface system like the one we have.
Hmm.
So I think that was quite obvious at the time. Now, an important thing when it comes to running the business is that Ulf, that was my business partner up until we sold to CC a few years ago. Well, he's still in the company, just like me, but he's the business guy. I'm not the business guy. I really don't care about money. It really never interested me. I care about the stuff, and I think guns and scope mounts and optics and all that stuff. I think that's really interesting. So I have always been shooting a lot, and my own needs is what I look on the most. And
Okay.
of course, if a customer is contacting me, then I'm listening to what they say, and I look at my own needs at the same time, and my own experience.
Okay. Well, and so the interface system that you mentioned, so it's a it's really unique and it's very different than anything else that's out there. And I would assume, especially for when it was developed, when I would guess most stuff was just like a basic Picatinny mounting system. How did you? I'm trying to get into your brain a little bit and think how did you sit and look at, okay, these are the current mounting system offerings that are available. I'm going to develop something that's totally different,
Well,
and it works.
when I started with interface, we had a totally different interface. We had actually a slot milled into the ring, and there were two threads, and there was a corresponding piece in the Picatinny rail that went into the slot. Now, here is a big problem, and that is tolerance in aluminium. Because as soon as you have machined something in aluminium and you're sending it off to surface treatment, that is hard coat anodizing, tolerances are changing.
Hmm.
So it doesn't matter how good you make it, it will not be the same after surface treatment. So we can't have a system where we rely on that we made a 4 millimeter slot or a 1/4 inch slot or whatever, and a piece that should fit into that. Because in one case it will be too stiff, and in another case it will be sloppy. So we really needed something else. And in machinery, when it comes to drill press or a lathe or a milling machine, we're using conical parts all over the place. So for example, the milling chuck, chuck. It's always on a cone. Same
Okay.
thing with the lathe chuck or with the drill chuck, etc.
Yeah. So that's where
And
that came
yeah,
from. Hmm.
correct.
That's okay. And it makes sense. And I think we're starting to see more uh concepts around that and some of the tools and dies and stuff that are coming out now. But I thought it was a unique system. And then, you know, Picatinny there it it's especially depending on where you're mounting it, it's super uncomfortable to hold on to, and it's heavy, and then you take something that actually takes weight out of it. Um and then, you know, like self-centers itself. I just thought it was I mean, kind of a
Yeah.
stroke of genius, honestly.
Well, it's really like any tool making machine is the same thing. So it's just a standard way of doing things.
It sounds very simple when you put it that way, but it's
Yeah.
okay.
And that's really a good thing when you've been playing around with a lot of mechanical parts, like in my case, tools, and other guys that have been working with cars or motorcycle or whatever. You see a number of mechanical solutions that works, and you see a number of mechanical solutions that fails, and you bring those things with you, and you try to avoid some things, and you try to go for other things.
Okay. And so you've developed quite a few different products that span a decent realm of things in the firearms world. And so I kind of want to pick your brain a little bit on like your development process. And so like is it something, so you kind of talked about things that you need personally, but some of these other products, I mean, is it you do you see, hey, that's a problem and I can make it better? Or I guess what I'm trying to think is like what's your thought process for like when you set out to develop a solution for whatever it may be, to that being a finished product shipping out to customers?
Um,
And that's a very
First of
broad
all,
question.
I spend a shitload of hours with the stuff. So I don't work 7 to 4. That don't happen. And the
Yeah,
good ideas are usually never 7 to 4.
yeah,
Not in my case. Um, that means if I'm working with a 203, for example, um, the 40mm grenade launcher, and I made a site for that. That means that 203 is with me 24/7 for quite a while.
okay,
Yeah. Um, so I'm spending shitload of time. So I really understand it and really understand the need. Um, and then the ideas they come by themselves.
okay, okay. That I mean that okay, so that makes sense. And then so once you come up with the idea, how difficult is it to take it from an idea to a physical product, or even, you know, just a
For
prototype?
many years, I couldn't do any CAD myself. I didn't do any CAD at all, and I can't sketch with a pen and a paper either. So I went straight out to the machines and I machined the parts. Machining the parts is really easy for me, at least.
I'll say I'll take your word for it. I'm not a machinist by any stretch.
Yeah. Um, if you're interested, I have an Instagram called Spuhr X Gunsmith. Spuhr underline X underline Gunsmith, and this has nothing to do at all with the company, not the slightest. But I'm doing a lot of mechanical stuff there just to entertain myself. I still think that mechanics is the most fun things ever. So I'm constantly looking for fun projects that entertain me. I don't do work for other people. I quit doing gunsmithing work for other people about 20 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. There was quite a number of gunsmithing work that only I did. And here in Sweden, for example, we have loads of SIG P210 pistols. And they are fantastic pistols, but most of them were imported into Sweden in the 50s and the 60s. So they have had a long, hard life, and
Mhm.
many have cracked over the years. So I welded hundreds of those. And after I quit, there was nobody else that was doing it. So people continued to call me, could you please weld my gun? No, sorry, I don't work for money anymore. Oh, what do you want instead? I want to trade. Big German naval binoculars, old funny guns, or blonde girlfriends or sisters. No, I don't have anything to trade with. Oh, sorry. And I don't want to do any work, so that's fine.
Yeah, so I went actually so I went through that Instagram account, and I was expecting it to be somewhat related to the company. And when I started looking through it, the vast array of things that you were messing with uh really shocked me, to be honest. And so that's why and then I started getting really, I was like, this guy is a tinkerer and a thinker. And so that's why I really wanted to kind of pick your brain, because I feel like you think very differently than I do. And that's a real a unique skill set. Um, so okay, so a little bit on a side note, what's your favorite thing to do regarding guns? 'Cause I see you do pistol smithing and rifle smithing and creating parts and uh kind of a little bit of everything.
Yeah. Uh, I don't care very much for just buying parts and assembling them. That doesn't
Okay.
count. Uh, well, when I started 16 years old as a toolmaker, and I got out work and working in plastic molds, that was really difficult. And maybe there were other guys that spent 100 hours in that plastic mold already. Well, this is steel molds for making plastic parts. Uh, but I got really nervous, and it was really difficult, especially for a 16-year-old. But that feeling of this being really difficult, I don't know how the hell I should fix this, and this is way over my skill set. I really like that feeling, so I'm actually looking for that still.
Okay.
So
That makes
you've probably seen that double barrel set I just made on my Instagram. That is definitely way above my skill set. I don't know anything about it, and I had good friends, good help from friends in the UK who've been working with it and is working with it. So I got good tips and ideas how to do it, and yeah.
And so what is the project? Like, so what are you doing with it?
Oh, well, I have a double barrel rifle, 9.3 by 74R, and I am
Okay.
kind of tired of big heavy calibers. So I made a new barrel set in 6.5 by 57R. So
Okay.
from the monoblock and with the two barrels in and ribs and making the monoblock and making everything.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
it is, and it's hundreds and hundreds of hours.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah.
So do you mess with so double barrel rifles aren't a really big thing over here.
No, not here either. No,
Okay.
uh, no. Very few people have double barrel rifles.
Yeah. Uh, do you are you using it for hunting, or I mean what?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, what do you hunt?
We hunt quite a lot of wild boar, roe deer, fallow deer, and of course foxes and badgers and so on, but mainly the deer and the wild boar.
Okay. That's I love well, I love shooting pigs. I don't know what it is, but there's something about it.
Yeah, and we hunt a lot of pigs by night, so we are using thermals.
Okay.
I'm doing that actually with a homemade bolt rifle, and I will not use the double barrel rifle there. I will not put a thermal onto the double barrel rifle, of course. No way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a more classic system.
Yeah.
That I remember the first time I ever saw a double barrel rifle. It was a guy I used to work for straight out of college, and he safaried every year, and him and his son went in on it's like a 1928 Rigby double barrel 416. I mean, it was a work of art. It was unbelievable. Uh, and I kind of went down a I don't own any, uh, but I kind of went down a rabbit hole researching them and Rigby, and uh, it's pretty amazing what some of those
Yeah.
setups are.
Yeah. Further on, my favorite pistol since many years is the P08, the Luger pistol. So I spent shitload of hours on that, both making new parts and customizing them quite a lot. There is not a market for it, not really. I just do it
Yeah.
for fun. Yeah, and I built an open gun for my girlfriend, where that was actually the first open gun I built in over 20 years. And the funny thing with it, I could try a lot of techniques that I haven't tried before. So I made a comp that is slided into the frame, just to put on as little pressure on the slide as possible. So the barrel and the comp is actually hanging to the frame.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm trying to picture how that works. It's just that I saw a quit. Is it the one that you put on your Instagram?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll have to go back and look at it then because I didn't look that close.
No.
Okay. Okay, and so sorry, I know we went down a bit of a rabbit hole there, but so going back to like you designing products and stuff. So you go out, program it into your machine, you make this prototype thing. How
No, I don't.
okay.
99.9% I'm running manual machinery. So it's not programmed.
Oh, okay.
It's old school. The production at the company, it's very modern. It's 4 and 5 axis, and it's all robot fed. It's totally different. But my own workshop, that is like the 50s or the 60s or something like that. It's very
Okay.
old school. There is a CNC, but I rarely use it.
Okay. Um, okay, so you go manually make this thing,
Yeah.
which blows my mind. That's just not the world I live in. So once you have this prototype, I mean, in general, I mean, do you have to make a ton of different tweaks to that prototype before it ever becomes a final product, or how difficult is it once you have that to finish it up?
It really depends. So sometimes it's
Okay.
spot on almost immediately, and other times it needs a ton of tweaks and
Okay.
new prototypes. And now
Gotcha.
at the company, we are a team at the company. So many times the original idea comes from me, but I have some really good engineers that make it to a producible product.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
My,
Uh,
my interest in the product is really mainly for the first 85%, and the last
okay.
85% are yeah, they are that boring.
Okay. So what's your favorite product that you've designed?
Uh, the favorite product is by far the chassis system.
Okay.
Uh, I think the chassis system is giving the most to the shooters. I think it's absolutely exceptional. The thing is, we bought a couple of impact actions, and she bought an existing chassis, and I said I will never shoot with that, and then that's really a disaster. And what I find so important is that the eye relief is constant.
Okay.
And when you go down in prone, your eye is moving forward normally. So
Hmm.
your eye is going forward almost an inch. And when you put on heavy clothing for winter time, your eye is going further away from the scope. This is really annoying. And either you accept it and you do the best out of it. And what most people are doing is that they are having a too short length of pull. And I find that really annoying because um, changing my neck back and forth, it doesn't
Yeah.
work very well. So I really wanted a really quick length of pull adjustment. So we adjust the length of pull within a second, easily within a second.
Hmm.
Um, and I do it on the fly. Uh, so if I'm going from shooting through a window and going down in prone, I will definitely extend the length of pull so I get the right eye relief when I'm shooting both positions.
Okay.
Yeah. Uh, but that was just one thing. There is a number of things in that chassis that is totally different from everybody else, and I'm extremely happy with it, the way it turned out. It's really a good thing.
So the chassis was one of the things that I had written down that I really wanted to talk about. So it, I want one to mess around with. But so I did the podcast with Adam from
Yeah.
uh that connect, and so he was going on about it. So one of his big things that he really hit on was the grip for the chassis, and that how you can get your thumb directly behind the action of the bore, and it's a more natural position. And he said once he moved to that, he's never been able to blame a bad trigger press because it's always just perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, can you kind of walk me through that? Because if you look at your chassis compared to others that are on the market, that section in particular is very different. Um, so I
It
mean, I
is
guess
very different. Um, there is actually more that have done it. There is another Swedish chassis system that have the same kind of thumb placement. Um, so, but that's just a good thing. And then we added the possibility to move the grip back and forth, so you can actually get the correct distance to your trigger. And very few chassis have that possibility.
right. Um, how important do you think the position and comfortability of your shooting hand is to a proper trigger press?
I don't know. I haven't thought about it that way. Uh, what I really focused on is really the eye relief to get
Okay.
a good good placement for the head. I think that this is so extremely important. Uh, but there is a number of things we did on that chassis that I don't hear anybody else talk about. For example, I believe very much that in many cases that the actions are fairly weak, and we are compensating that by bedding up, so the action is placed in the chassis or the stock, and that's of course good. It's really good to bed. I always recommend that, but I think that the more stability we can get from the chassis into the action, the better it is. And I see a big difference here between, for example, the Acros International. Acros International action and chassis, it's really stiff, and it's really well known for how accurate and how good it is. So I designed the chassis to be fairly high over where the magazine sits and where the action sits, and that was just to have it as little flexible as possible, and actually to add in stiffness to the action.
Okay.
Another thing that I was really annoyed by a number of the other chassis is that they're singing. When you're shooting, you can hear a singing sound of the chassis, or a
Yeah.
ringing sound of the chassis. I spent a lot of time to not have a singing and ringing sound of the chassis, because that's a vibration, and there is no reason to have that vibration. We don't want any vibrations at all. And that's also one of the reasons why our forend is going around the barrel. It's very much easier to get rid of the ringing, singing sound with the forend that goes all the way around.
Okay. So that's what I was going to ask next. So it is how did you accomplish getting rid of that? Is
Yeah.
it primarily that portion of the forend?
Not only. Another part that plays in is material thickness. If you
Okay.
have an even material thickness, you easily get this sound. But if you're varying your material thickness, you're killing out a lot of the sound, a lot of the vibrations. So
Okay.
we don't have an even thickness.
Okay.
Yeah. Another thing that I found really important, I really think, I mean, modern chassis need to have a folder. Not that you really need a folder. Most people don't need it. But
Right.
as we have a really high cheek piece, everybody have a high cheek piece, everybody have a high butt plate. It's annoying to be forced to remove the cheek piece, to remove the butt plate. So I want the folder at least full, so I can get the bolt out, I can clean the gun, and this makes life just easy. And I have been shooting with the TOG folders since 2007 or something, and I really like them. But the problem is that I got play in them. After some years shooting, there is a play, and I couldn't adjust that play. I don't know how it is with their latest models. It's very possible that they fixed that issue. But on my old chassis, I had to hammer them, and I had to weld up, and I have to fix the play by various means. And now on our own chassis, I made an adjustable solution, so there should never be any play. If there is a play, there is something wrong, and you can easily adjust it out yourself, so there is no play. It should feel like a fixed stock.
So I stayed away from folders forever because I was afraid of the same thing.
Yeah.
And I think they've come a tremendous way. But I was like, this thing's gonna feel like a rattly piece of crap before, you know, before too long. And so I finally my first folder was I got an AI a couple years ago,
Yeah.
and it's very
Oh, well, when you close or open this folder, it feels like a vault door, and that's the full feeling I want.
yes. Yeah, I went and looked at them again at SHOT Show this year, and they're very nice. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
Um, so I liked, well, there's a handful of things, but the things that I thought really stood out was the adjustable length of pull and the adjustable bag rider,
Yeah.
and how easy both of them were.
Yeah. That works really, really well. And the adjustable bag rider, it has become very popular, and everybody that are using it seems to love it.
Yeah. So, and I I only know of, I think, one other chassis and it's the Masterpiece Arms that has like a quick adjust uh bag rider. And when I first saw it, I thought that's interesting, but I don't think I would ever use it. Uh, and then everybody I've ever talked to that has ever touched one, they're like, it's the first thing I use, and now I don't want anything without it.
Yeah. And what people say normally is that they don't know what height of the bipod they need, so they put it out one or clicks extra.
Yep.
It, and then they compensate with the bag rider. And you do that compensating within a second as well. So that's really fast.
Yeah. No, and that's why I think these little details are so interesting, because you can take something uh at the back of a chassis that ends up affecting the whole system, and so you would never, it makes total sense when you've been around these platforms a lot. But if you to think like, oh, I have a bag rider system that's going to benefit my bipod use, that's kind of just a crazy concept that you can tie it all in together to where it all
Yeah.
works so well.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Apart from the chassis that I'm really satisfied with, the scope mount, of course, it has been a very good product over many years.
Hmm.
We came out with it in 2009, and we're making more than ever before. Apart from that, the product that I'm the most satisfied with is either the night vision system to put the night vision on to helmets, but we never made any money on it. We never had any good sales, so the product is close to dead, but it's an amazingly nice product. And the G3 upgrade kit. The G3 upgrade kit, we sold a lot of them to the Swedish Army, sold it to the Portuguese, and selling quite a bit to civilians as well. And it changed the G3 so much. And here is so much different opinions. In America, most people are using G3. They see it as, oh, I want to use a 1950s rifle. I think it's cool as it was. That's fine. But for a Swedish soldier, he don't have any choice. He have to use that rifle.
Hmm.
Uh, and by adding our stock, so we got a decent length of pull instead of the overly excessive length of pull that V3 originally had. The gun became so much nicer. It's a tremendous difference.
That's awesome.
It
So
is,
yeah,
and
that was. Oh, go ahead.
it's surprising that a gun that actually came around in the 50s, it took so many years before somebody fixed the length of pull issue.
Yeah. Well, and so that was I was looking at the systems that y'all developed for, especially a lot of the HK stuff, the MP5s and the 417 and stuff like that. And that's kind of how I thought about the MP5 stuff that you did. The MP5 has been around for decades,
Yeah,
and then I was looking at the products, and I was like, why is this? Why did it take so long?
yeah,
I mean, I was like, that's so much. and I didn't know that y'all had made those systems. And so yeah, it shocked me. I was like, this is so simple. It fixes a very dated system and makes it very modern and very usable.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
so I'm a sucker for machine guns. I love machine guns, and so when I started looking at that stuff, I was nerding out on it a little
Yeah,
bit.
I like them a lot too, and especially the older stuff. So
Yeah,
World War One machine guns is the favorites.
the World War Ones.
Yeah, uh,
So what's your favorite?
I like the Vickers a lot. I don't like the Hotchkiss, but I enjoy playing with it. Um, the type of magazine it feeds, it's pretty annoying, but they're really well made and they're very cumbersome. But I like those old stuff. I do have a Schwarzlose 0712, but for the Swedish Army in 6.555. It's an amazing gun. A blowback shooting a 6.555 round.
Really? Yeah, I'm not familiar with that. It's- That's really interesting.
Yeah.
A
So
blow.
it's a water cooled blowback. A very
Huh.
odd solution.
How long was that in service?
In Sweden, it was in service until 1950 sometimes, and
Okay.
Germany used them quite a lot on the Eastern Front in the Second World War.
Okay.
Germany never adopted the gun, but when they went in cooperation with Austria, they of course took the Austrian guns with them
Gotcha.
to use the Austrian guns. Yeah,
Yeah, I'd never heard of that. I'm not as familiar with World War One. World War Two interests me a lot more.
yeah,
Um, and then I like new stuff. I like the more modern things that are out.
yeah.
Uh,
My, most of my interest in guns is is the guns you not can buy over the counter.
yeah,
I have way less interest for the guns you buy over the counter than the old stuff.
yeah,
But this is changing all the time. I mean, uh, uh, a number of years, long range is the most fun there is, and then there is a few years where it's double barrel rifles, and a few years with a lot of Lugers, and it changes all the time.
yeah. And that's one of the things I love about just the firearms and the firearms industries. There's something for everybody,
Yeah,
whether you like antiques or high points or whatever it is. I think so there's a old I think they stopped making it in the early 80s. And I have zero reason to own this. I just want one really bad. It's Marlin made this shotgun called the Super Goose. Have you ever seen
yeah,
that? It's like a 30, I think it's like a 36-inch barrel, and it's a bolt action 10 gauge.
yeah.
The first I was like, I want one of those so bad. I'll probably
Yeah,
I'll probably go shoot it once or twice, but something about that is just so
yeah.
unique.
And that's also really cool in the gun world. If you really want to spend all the money you have all the possibilities in the world. But if you don't want to spend a lot of money, you can still get really good stuff for shit money, for really low money. You don't have to buy the most expensive. Of course, you want to do it, but you don't have to do it.
Right. Uh, that yes. So that's one thing I think that's been really interesting especially over the last 5 years or so. The amount of products and how far things have come, uh, from rifles and bullets and optics. I mean, just kind of overwhelming. We've I think that we've come very, very far very quickly. and with that, it's driven prices down on things that were previously unaffordable for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, like I think my best is like a Bergara rifle now. Uh, 700 or 800 bucks, and it's a
Really, really same thing as a Tikka T3.
yes,
Very low money, amazing gun. We see the same thing on scopes. We in the past, if you wanted a good long range scope, it was really expensive. Now you have all the possibilities to spend a lot of money, but you don't have to spend a lot of money. There is lower price alternatives that not are bad.
right. Yeah, I was just talking the new Loophole Mark IV scope that they launched this year. Uh, I think is pretty remarkable. Um,
Okay.
uh, it's a very very nice scope, and it's retailing for $1,500.
Yeah.
And where we haven't had that really ever.
Yeah.
Um, but okay, and so you said so. Do you do a lot of long range shooting?
Uh, I used to do actually, but I bought a farm a couple of years ago, and we're renovating it. So I'm spending almost all my time not working. I'm at the farm, working with the farm. So I haven't been doing much long range shooting for about 2 years now. But before that, I shot a lot.
Okay. What did you shoot? I mean, did you do PRS or field
Yeah,
matches or
PRS mainly, and
okay.
we have. Field matches here that are Swedish field matches, where people used to shoot with old Mausers and modernized Mausers, and they didn't allow scopes and they didn't allow bipods. And from 2007, I worked quite a lot on the shooting association, and I got it opened up so we could start shooting with bipods and scopes and other calibers and other guns than they were using. So I was pretty active in that too.
Okay. What
And, and this was pretty cool. I mean, especially in the past, this was extremely big. Every village in Sweden had their own 300-meter range, and they
wow.
had and there was field matches like every weekend in the past, like 70s and 80s, and you just went out to a small village, and there were maybe 150, 200 men gathering, and they were shooting unknown distances between 150 yards up to 650 yards
Wow.
out in the fields. Really nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That would be really fun. What what cartridge were you shooting in
6.5.
PR 6.5
Yeah. Well,
Creedmoor?
in PRS, I were either shooting 6.5 55 actually improved, or 6mm GT.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, the 6 GT is huge.
Yeah.
Uh but a 6.5 55 Ackley.
Yeah.
That's
That have been my main cartridge since 95, 96.
really
Yeah.
so what bullet are you shooting out of that?
Depending on what I'm doing. When I was competing with it, I were using 140 grain burgers.
Okay.
And when I'm shooting pigs and whatever, normally 140 grain Hornadys.
Okay. And what kind of
It,
speed are you getting out of
too much.
that? I was saying it's gotta have some oomph behind it.
3150.
3150, my God.
Yeah, and that's not a recommended one. Um, so most of my hunting loads they are 3000, but I have been using a couple of Krieger barrels. I got the most velocities out of the Kriegers, and it looked kind of safe with 3150 on 141.
That's unbelievable. I bet that's a ton of fun to shoot.
Yeah,
So one of my first rifles, I won it at a banquet thing. It was and I can't remember what model, but it was a CZ, and I was super excited to win a new rifle, and I grabbed it off the table, and then I got home and I looked, and it was a 6.5 and I
yeah.
had never heard of it, and man, trying to find 6.5 ammo over here, it's very difficult. Yeah, I don't think I ever shot it. I couldn't find it, and I was like, I'm selling this.
Yeah, here in Sweden, it used to stand for about 40% of the most guns. So it was extremely popular, and it's still very, very popular. Now, 308 is probably more popular, but for many years, the 6.5 was really the big round.
Okay. So do you have you developed any of your own cartridges, or do you ever go that route on things?
I made a few tries, but they didn't turn out too well. So
Okay.
yeah, no, I don't have any tracker record.
Okay. I figured with everything else that you made, I was like, I figured
Yeah,
he's probably wildcatted something somewhere.
yeah, I've been playing around with it, but nothing that I'm satisfied with.
Is it just trying to get more speed out of something?
I did a pretty stupid thing a few years ago where I took 6.5 and straightened them out completely and put in a 458 bullet there. But getting this shit to feed is not so easy.
Yeah.
So no, I quit with that.
Gotcha.
Currently, I'm pretty I'm I'm playing around with the hillbilly calibers and just enjoy it, like 3240 and 4440 and
Oh,
35 Remington and so on. Yeah,
okay. Yeah, I haven't really spent any time with those. I will say I'm very much landed in the more modern cartridges.
yeah.
Uh, but I like the name though, hillbilly cartridges. Uh, um, so what's your, are you working on anything new right now? I guess either with the company or personally that you're really excited about?
I suppose you have seen the flip mount on Shot Show,
I don't think I saw that.
okay. Well, I think this is going to be really big, and we never seen so much interest for anything ever before. We built together the mount that holds the red dot sight and the flip mount for a 3-power attachment. So instead of having two mounts, they're sitting together. It's one mount, so it's lighter, and you can easily remove the 3-power.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it for which site is it for an aim point?
Yeah. So far I work mainly with the Aimpoint T2.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. No, I didn't see that. That's really cool.
It is, and there is an attachment as well for with the picton rail in front, so you can put on
Okay.
a laser mounted onto the mount instead of the forend. Uh,
Okay.
and the idea with that is quite a lot of forends are flexing around quite a bit.
Yeah.
So instead of allowing the laser to flex, the forend is flexing, but the laser is fixed.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then I guess how does the magnifier disconnect from the flip mount?
There is a spigot mounted onto the magnifier,
Okay.
and you're pushing out the crossbolt from left to right on the mount, and now you can detach the tree power and just draw it straight backwards, and it leaves the main mount.
Okay.
And you do it like in 2-3 seconds. It's really fast.
Okay. I'm gonna have to check that out. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Precision rifle is by far my passion, but I love carbines and machine guns and
Yeah.
all that stuff. That's really unique because I don't think I've seen something. What height is it?
225 and 291.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They
So
need, so they're not flipping to the side. Um, they're mainly flipping not really to center, but it's more centerish, and
more
we
in
need
line.
height. Yeah. So to make them lower, like 1.5 and so on,
Mhm.
and lower third, we have to flip the side. But the first variations here, they're more centerish.
Okay. Well, and I think
Yeah.
that's where a lot of the trends are heading anyways
Yeah.
with as much as night vision and more people having infrared and stuff like that. I think that's where it's headed anyways.
Yeah.
You're gonna make me go spend money.
Good.
Uh, but okay, well, man, thank you so much. This has been awesome, and getting to talk to uh someone that thinks like you is very it's very entertaining and very educational. Uh,
Thank you.
I feel like I was trying to keep up most of the time, but but I sincerely appreciate it, and thank you for um what y'all do. I mean, y'all just have amazing products, and I mean, I've been using them for mainly the scope mounts, but I've been using them for years, and the only time it's ever messed up was because I did something stupid. So it's pretty remarkable.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, that's all. Anything you want to leave us with that you want people to know?
Well, only thing is probably to repeat what I said in the podcast with Eric Cortina, and that is lubrication of the picketing rail. Have you heard that?
Mm-mm.
I think that this is so important, and especially when we're talking about precision rifles. We have a sponsored shooter in the United States who were shooting a match, a Saturday and Sunday match, and he were doing really fine on the Saturday. On the Saturday evening, the gun was standing on a bipod in the hotel room, and it fell over, and he didn't hit shit on Sunday. So he called me and he said there is something wrong with the man because I lost the point of impact. Uh, so I started to make a lot of tests. And first I said, no, I don't believe you. There got to be something wrong with the scope. So he went away to a server center, and they measured the scope up in the collimator. There was nothing wrong with the scope. So I do have a Hensoldt collimator, and the Hensoldt collimator, it's basically a scope mount mounted on a bench, and I mount the real scope, the real rifle scope on the same bench. Now I can measure the movement of the reticle. I can measure the subtensions of the reticle. It's really a useful thing. But this optical bench is made of out of aluminium, and it's really weak. It's not made to take any battery. So I took in one of my milling machines, I mounted up 2 vices in a line, and I made a very heavy picketing rail and mounted the rifle scope in one of the vices. In the other vise, I took the collimator instrument and mounted there. So now when the scope was torqued down to the picketing rail, I could center my collimator, and I could center it on the rifle scope and in the reticle. Now I hit the scope, so I'm actually hitting the scope with an open hand on the objective bell, like this. Not hard enough to destroy my hand, but certainly hard enough to start the bar fight. And I had 0.4, 0.5 mil of deviation, and I was devastated. Shit, this is terrible. We sold thousands of mounts, and here we have movement of a small head. What is this? And I have quite a collection of other manufacturers' scope mounts. So I tested, not everybody, but I tested a lot of mounts. The best mounts were 0.4, 0.5. The worst mount I tried was 3 mils. That's really a disaster.
Yeah.
So in total desperation, I took CLP oil and poured out over the picketing rail, and I torqued down the scope. I don't know why I did it. I just did it. And I zeroed the collimator, and I hit the scope between 0 and 0.1. It really fixed the problem. Then I told our sponsored shooter, this is what I come up with. Please try it. And he said, this won't work. And I think he probably destroyed the barrel by testing, because he didn't have a collimator. So he did all his testing on the shooting range. And quite a number of the PRS guys today, they are putting lubrication between the picketing rail and the scope mounts, regardless of the manufacturer of the scope mount. This is what is happening here is not really strange. If you look into screw recommendations, it's often recommended that you have lubrication on the screws, because there is so much of the torque that is being lost in friction, especially when aluminum is involved. There is extreme amount that is lost in friction. So I believe that the mounts or the rings, doesn't matter, actually set some friction. So when you hit the mount or the scope, you're moving it on friction. And we are killing the friction with some lubrication.
And so are you lubricating the screws or the surface of the Picatinny?
Surface of the Picatinny.
Okay.
And I say the same thing to him, to you, as I did to him. Don't believe me. Go out and try. Take your non-lubricated scope mount and check the zero on your gun and hit the scope. And if you're satisfied with the point of impact shift, you don't have to do anything. But if you're not satisfied, put some lubrication on and see if the same thing happens.
I am going to have to test that. That's really
Please
interesting.
do. Yeah, it is.
I'm trying to think if, yeah, I'm gonna mess with that. I've got a bunch of different mounts, and
yeah.
Okay.
So try it first.
Does it matter?
Sorry.
Does it
Please
matter
try
what?
it first without any lubrication. So you do it first with the dry.
Okay. And does it matter what type of lubrication, or just something?
I don't know. At first, I tried with CLP, and I assumed the thicker, the better. But I don't know. I had good results with anything.
Well, that's a pretty good piece of advice.
Yeah.
I have 3 matches in the next month, so I may I I may take everything apart again
Yeah.
and maybe save me a match. Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I learned a ton. This was a lot of fun.
Good.
All right. Well,
Nice to meet you.
it was very nice to meet you, and I may have to get you on again here at some point in the future, and once I've learned some more things and pick your brain again.
Yeah. You're welcome.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.